All right, guys, let's jump right into this. We got an awesome guest today, all the way from Tennessee. When I was at DE a couple of weeks ago, I stood back and watched this young lady adjusting people, and all I could say is energy. The energy was amazing. I wanted to get down on the table, but I had to run in and do some work in the room, and I got distracted. But next time, I'm having you check my spine, girl, because there was pure love coming out of that space. So let's welcome Dr. Jamie Galperin. How are you, kiddo?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me today.
You just emanate pure energy and love, and your shirt you're wearing says love. You're
Yep.
lit up, girl. It's just love God. I love it. I love it. Why don't we start with, let's tell people where you're from, kind of what your deal is, how many kids you have, like who is Jamie?
Awesome. I'm originally from Dayton, Ohio, and I did my undergraduate studies for chiropractic there. Chose my chiropractic school based on weather because it was warm in Hotlanta. And being from Dayton, Ohio, I wanted to get out of the cold and the snow, and Iowa did not offer that. So I was actually an accreditation crisis student. And we started going through all the accreditation stuff right when I moved there. And so I saw buses of students leaving the school. But what was so funny is my dad kept trying to talk me into either staying in Ohio and getting my psychology degree, my bachelor's or something like that, just until all the air had cleared. And I kept telling him, I want to be a subluxation based doctor. Have to go to life. I had no clue, honestly, what subluxation was. And I didn't even know what innate was then. So now in hindsight, I look back and just think, wow, I was so connected to that then, and I had no idea. And I've known I've wanted to be a chiropractor since I was 13.
Wow.
Just helping people with low back pain, migraines, like my mom. That's why they went to a chiropractor, and they happened to go to high school with this guy. And so I was sitting in his office and I'm like, man, this looks awesome. His wife works here. He's got 5 kids. He has a nice car, a beautiful home. He doesn't do ER work. He helps people like my parents. Like, yeah, this is cool. So since 13, I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor, but stepping into Life University, I learned chiropractic thanks to Dr. Sid and the principles, and was just blown away after I went to my first dynamic essential seminar, my first quarter of school. And I saw the greats. I saw Dr. Sid, saw Dr. Sigafus, I saw Dr. Santo, and I saw Dr. Paula Hedgelon. And when I saw her get up there and just emanate the love that she does and the passion, and of course she cried, and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman loves chiropractic so much, she's tearing up. I want that for my life. And I vowed at that moment that I was gonna not, of course, compete with anybody for, anything to try to be better than someone, but I wanted to be just as dynamic and powerful as a woman like that in chiropractic. And so I just ran with it, went to Life, went through all the cool things, meeting amazing people like Oasis, and just it was an amazing journey. And I met my first husband while in chiropractic school, soon about to graduate, and we had our first child soon after I opened my first practice right outside of school with a business partner, and rocked and rolled for a little bit, had another child, moved to Spain, practiced high volume over there with his dad, who was a chiropractor, and then had some family stuff happen, and moved back here and healed from that, and started a new family and had another child, and have my 2 practices now. And I love it. It's just amazing. I love serving the people, and I love making a difference in people's lives. There's nothing better or more rewarding knowing they're going to have a better day because they're connected and their atlas is clear.
Wow. That's like, blah, it's like everything.
I'm a talker.
How does someone just pick up and go to Spain? His dad was a chiropractor there, and you're like, what part of Spain was that?
He was in Alicante, which is in the province of Valencia. And so we wanted to go over there and practice and join his practice. My husband never did graduate from chiropractic school at that time. I believe we're divorced now, but I believe he has graduated since. And I think he's practicing with his dad over there. So it was a change for me because I'm a BGI based doctor, which is more, people call it energetic work, but everything's so it's more of the, different kind of chiropractic where people are on the table a little bit longer, a little connected to network to the degree because it branched from that. So when I went to Spain, it was high volume, 100 to 300 people a day, boom, and go. So I didn't have time to do any of the disconnections or subluxation patterns that get locked down in the sacred geometry of the body like I do with biogeometric integration.
It's so the layperson that doesn't understand chiropractic lingo, because I noticed with myself, I do really great with the energy work. I think it's just like people get on my spine and I'm like a rhino, as much as I get adjusted and just, but and that's why I was gravitating towards you at DE. But I go to DE and it's like I'm working. It's I get caught up and I'm emceeing and doing my thing. So I want you to hold me accountable next time and get my butt on the table, even if it's both Friday and Saturday, because I need it. But how would you explain your style when you're talking about the energetic and
Yeah.
to the layperson?
That's a great question. So BGI, it stands for Biogeometric Integration. And like I mentioned, it works with the sacred geometry of our human frame. So when we have a subluxation, a misalignment in our spine, putting pressure on a nerve, that will create an entire pattern that goes from head to toe, not just in that one area. And that pattern will lock down in the ligaments, the muscles, tendons, organs, everything, as well as obviously that vertebral misalignment subluxation as well. And so I will do what's called just disconnections, and I'll go through and touch on different lines that I feel their body is not, everything's not connecting. They're kind of chopped off in little pieces. So I'll go through where everything has continuity from head to toe before I go in there and make the actual structural chiropractic adjustment. But I'll do a little pattern work first, removing some of the subluxation patterns. And what I have found on a level as far as, a practitioner in my art is that it really calms down their nervous system and reduces so much tension and stress that is already going on. Like their brain's having a conversation, trying to figure something out while they're on the table. So this is me just focusing it on a different conversation. I'm making them focus on the subluxation pattern so it can go in and release it from a greater place of ease. Because as we know, you can't be in protection mode and growth mode at the same time. So you're in one or the other. So if someone possibly feels they have to guard during an adjustment for whatever reason, they're in protection mode. So it seems a little different or challenging for me to think instantly once that bone is released, you're 100% in growth mode now. So to me, I like to really keep that parasympathetics in motion during that adjustment. And I stick to, I'm not upper cervical specific, but I'm specific in upper cervical care. As you know, it's about Atlas, it's all about brainstem. So after I'm doing that pattern work, I'll go in and I'll adjust them like you would typically in chiropractic using drop, activator, toggle, cervical, supine, however you need to.
That's awesome. So yeah, that's something, especially, with, a lot of the cops and military firemen, they get down on the table and they're in sympathetic mode, fight and flight. They're just guarded, especially if, they work in a prison or something. Now they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, it's fun when I have, students come in and watch, it's not mechanical. It's not just pounce on their spine. It's almost, I liked how you said the brain is having a conversation. That was beautiful. Because I feel that's exactly what's happening. And it was cool to watch you float and move around the table. So I imagine when you're in the office adjusting, it's almost like a meditation to you.
It is. I'm actually in my adjusting room right now in my Cookville location, and I have 6 tables in this room. And I just kind of float and dance around because the brain and body have to take time to have that conversation. And so when that's happening, I'll move to somebody else and do some disconnections or some pattern work. And then I'll go back and revisit. So for me, it's fun. My mind is very busy. So I'm like, okay, you're on this part of the pattern, this part. And so it's like keeping track of all these different puzzles at the same time. So it's very intriguing to me. And I'm never bored, never, ever, ever bored with what I do.
So let me ask you this. How do you explain energy to patients? Because I find sometimes people, I'm in New England, and you mentioned energy to some people, and they get a little guarded. How do you educate and share on that?
That's a really good question. I actually, here in Tennessee, we live where it's a very huge Bible Belt Christian. I adjust Mennonites, I adjust Amish. So of course, you mentioned energy in that case is like, ooh, stand back. In that point, they think it's demonic.
Right.
But really, everything is energy. And I go back to, just even, and I don't like to necessarily say science. To me, science is man's attempt to prove God and all of God's mystical, wonderful things that we don't understand. And so everything has a certain tone. Everything has a certain vibration to it. So it's really the quantum physics of our element of our body. We vibrate at a certain level. And sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. It can vary through the day. For instance, even when you do like toponement on a human body, when you're on a bone, it has a different resonance than when you're on the lungs, and the air can expand and you can really hear what's going on. Right. So it's similar in the human body. When I'm feeling on someone with that energy, it's a tone. It feels a certain way. It has a certain vibration to it. And I connect those vibrations. but everything is energy in the world. This table that's right in front of me right here, it's energy, you know, my shoes, everything, I'm energy. There's difference between live energy and dead energy to that degree.
Right.
It'll have a function, but as you
Yep.
know, we can on our table and we're getting nowhere. So.
Now, I mean, that your style of work and being in the open, and you have all this, you know, you got 6 people on the table, 5 people in the hot seats, and, you know, energy, right? There's a lot of energy going on. You have to be very centered
Yes,
and connected.
to prepare. Yeah.
How do you keep yourself in that state? What do you do to prepare?
Well, of course, we know 49 breaths from DE and Dr. Sid. So I
Yep.
get on those every morning and do that. I read my Bible and I read my green books or whatever chiropractic literature I really feel like I need to connect to at that moment. I meditate. I drink a lot of water to hydrate myself. Sometimes I slip, you know, we all have our moments. We need to slip and check. I
Sure.
eat very, very clean because I can't be at the vibration I need to be for everybody else and to see the high volume that I see because I only have short adjusting hours. So I'm in the hour like 2 to 6 is my typical Tuesday adjusting shift. And I'll see somewhere from 70, 90 people BGI style in that time period. So I have to keep myself connected, pure, ready to go, ready to do what I need to do. And a lot of kids too. So it's not just this kumbaya moment in my main adjusting room. It can be crazy and it sounds like a daycare center a lot of times. So I definitely have to be able to stay grounded, to be able to be that chiropractor for that infant that was just born, and then be that chiropractor for that toddler who just fell possibly at the playground, or, you know, the kid that just comes in because their parents are smart, know they need to get adjusted from birth on and keep them connected. And so I'll go from that to like now the adult who had a stressful work day and needs to release something, or a woman who's gone through a recent divorce and after her atlas is cleared, now she's like, holy cow, I have no depression compared to what I did 5 minutes ago. Like it's amazing.
So the person that hears that, you know, and there's a lot of that, the woman that went through the divorce and now she went in to get her atlas checked and it changes her state. For someone hearing that the first time is, you know, what the hell does chiropractic have to do that? This lady getting divorced and this thing this girl's talking about. So how do you relate that? Like, what does that mean to that woman that's going through that tough time?
Well, she came in after that adjustment. I hadn't seen her in a while. And because she went through her divorce and all that. And then she came in for her second adjustment after that. And she didn't share with me anything about her divorce, but she was laying on the table. And that's one thing I love about open adjusting is you can share your stories and people hear. And she said, I got to tell you, I left here a different person. And I was like, wow, you know, we don't know when that adjustment is that powerful, just like with Nolan, you know,
Right.
You know, and so we don't have a clue. We just do what we're supposed to do. And
You just show up.
yeah. And so she came back and was just like, you know, I was different. I said, what happened? She said, I went through a divorce. That's why I haven't been here. I have been battling through depression. You know, just everything I've tried, I've just not been able to pull myself out of it. She said, the day I got adjusted that night, I talked to my mom and she called me the next day and asked me what I did different, because the next day she could tell just from that night conversation that I was already a different person. And then I went to work and my coworkers asked me that. And then my friends asked me that. 3 days later, I've had 10 people ask me what I did. And I know it's because I came here and I got adjusted.
It's an amazing story because I really believe that if the world could just understand that one principle you're talking about, just the emotional status of a person, that her loved ones and coworkers realized there's something different about you.
Yeah.
What'd you do different? I got my atlas cleared out.
Yeah.
I got connected. I saw Dr. Jamie. You know, if all those colleagues talking to her could say, well, I want some of that, because they all have that place. You don't have to go through a divorce to go through it, or have a car accident. We all have our thing. And you keep using the word vibration. And I just had an awesome conversation with Denise Dobson. You know, she's all the vibration of her world, of what she's going through, is where she's really moved into this space that's just absolutely amazing. So if I could with you, and tell me to shut up if you want me to, but I imagine your world when you moved to Spain and at some point things went awry and you said, I'm out of here. It's not working out and I'm leaving. I imagine having 4 daughters, my little girl in another country, having to pick up, pack up and leave. What was your world like then? And how did you come through that?
Well, really, you know, I know you know my story, but obviously everybody else doesn't. But I was at the time going through my daughter that was diagnosed with peanut brain cancer 8 months after we had moved there. And I wanted to do everything holistic and all natural because living in Spain, we did not have to legally do chemotherapy unless somehow it got reported, yada, yada, something that ended up not happening. But so I wanted to stick to all natural. And of course, when you hear the word cancer, you freak out. We've been programmed to think chemo immediately, radiation immediately. But a lack of chemo and a lack of radiation is not why that cancer entered into the body in the first place. Right. And so I understood that thanks to the principles of chiropractic and what I had learned. And honestly, in many ways, I've mentioned before too, that I felt like I was very invincible having chiropractic in my life. Like, poof, you get tested, nothing can happen. This was a big wake-up call for me because I wasn't born into chiropractic and raised in it like a lot of people were. But it still showed me that no matter what, the truth is the truth and that it works. The more I connected her, the more we did things holistically and all naturally, she was thriving. And then as soon as they were too fearful, and she was 1 point away from being cancer-free on a cancer marker scale. And so I know exactly, they were just wanting it preventatively, but yet they had already said, we have absolutely seen no new tumor growth with this cell type of cancer, which is unheard of. And that was from August to December, no new tumor growth. So we were doing everything right. So they jumped on, the fear, and I know they weren't doing anything to hurt anybody. They loved this little girl. She's amazing, Sophia. And so 6 weeks into chemotherapy, she had 4 new inoperable brain tumors. And to me, there's no way, shape, or form that there was anything else that created that. So that was in about this time, about 10 years ago, almost to the day that they told me that the chemo was not working. And so I was just like, yeah, no surprise, and you made it worse. So let's go from there. So I tried to do everything I could to stop that and reverse things, which we reversed to a degree, but you can only do so much when that much poison has gone into such a tiny little body, because she was 2. So she passed 3 weeks before her 3rd birthday. And that's why it was so hard. My husband and I, unfortunately, at that time, we were already struggling through things in our marriage. He's a great guy, great family, the other family, they're good people, but, I just couldn't heal in that environment of where all that trauma had happened. So that's why I took my oldest daughter, Eva, at the time, she was 5, and we moved back here, and I got to go through a storage unit that we packed and planned to get shipped to Spain. It was packed for 4 people, and I went through it, and we only had 2 in our family. So that was very tough and hardening, but you got to just pull through things. And so I restarted my life, wanted to start practicing again because chiropractic had always been my life. And the more I just got into practice and the more I served people and knew I was making a difference in their life, my life started to hold more value. I knew I needed to survive for my daughter, like no ifs, ands, or buts. So I never did that, take a pain pill, drink this. I never tried to numb my pain. I just wanted to work through it and heal through it. And for her, she needed a good, stable mom. And so in that, I rented, my first practice was above the dance studio that I sent her to for dance. And people had to walk up 2 flights of stairs in a population of 4,000 farm town. And wow. That's where Love Life Chiropractic in Tennessee started. And that I've had that practice now for 8 years at that location. And I'm getting ready on Valentine's Day to celebrate 5 years here in Cookeville. And it's just been loving and serving people and just having compassion and just being that voice of reason in a very crazy and chaotic time, and just doing all that. And then the more you pour yourself into people, the more God fills your heart, and the more your heart cracks open and that light comes out, and you can express that hurt and fill it with something greater. And so I never in my life thought I would be the strength that I feel that I have found today, have the peace in my life that I feel that I have today, or the love and compassion that I do, if it wasn't for what I went through with my daughter. And I'm so thankful that even though it was so hard, that she made me such a better person and a better chiropractor and just a better lover.
Was there a moment, and that's, your words are absolutely beautiful. Like I could just shut this off right now, and it's like I don't know, I feel it. So thank you. But was there a moment in all that where, after your baby passed, and I'm sure at some point you just hurt, whatever, but you're looking at your older daughter there and you're having a conversation as a mom, like, all right, unfortunately, this relationship's not working out. I got to break away, and I'm going back thousands of miles away and starting from scratch. Was there like a pivotal moment where you were just like, all right, no more? Because I imagine too, and this is what I find with a lot of people, they go through that pain and now they heal by serving others, which sounds like you're doing.
Yeah.
Was there like that aha moment where it was just like, all right, girl, we're doing this, and you
Yeah,
just felt the healing?
there was. I mean, it was just kind of like we were going through the motions of just trying to heal. We didn't know what that looked like. And for the longest time, because we hold the values that we do, even, spiritually and stuff, I'm very much Christian based, but I believe a lot of things. I believe that there's value in so many different religions and stuff like that. And I don't ever want to push down anybody else's truth based on something that I believe. So
Right.
I just pulled that space for that. But it was challenging for us to find a counselor that I felt that was a right fit. And honestly, I feel God really just in time provided that for us. But I looked at her and I was like, it's you and me. Like, we got to do this. We need to do it together. You are what matters most. And so we moved over here. And I mean, we did go through some tough times because we did connect, and I reunited with somebody that I was dating actually before my first husband when I was in chiropractic school. And we were a long distance relationship, and he wasn't ready to move to Atlanta. So that is my now husband. So
Oh,
we kind of
wow.
big fused family way faster than what any of us expected. So we had to kind of work through other chaos at the same time of trying to heal, like trying to form a new family and heal through losing a family at the same time is a crazy dynamic.
Did he have
So
kids?
no, it was just Lily, our youngest that we have together. So it was just him merging with us. But honestly, he's had some troublesome backgrounds as in trauma growing up as a kid. So when it was like, I was really hurt and at a lower vibration and damaged in my life to where it could attract him into my life, because that's just where he was. So we were able to come together in that moment. But thankfully, because of chiropractic and healing, it was this thing where I was like, guys, we got to get it together. Like, and I'm still like that till this day. Like, we're not doing enough. We need to be better. We need to keep improving. Mental health is a big thing, as that's your niche. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but my dad, like, that was my life growing up, was going to see my daddy because he worked at Dayton Forensic Mental Health Center. So every time I would visit my father, I would go to a nut house and see my dad walk through metal detectors, go sit to the left and wait. And so I'm very passionate, just like you are, in mental health, but I take it to that step of pediatric where I want to make sure, we're getting everybody younger. I want to see the people that got injured. I want to, just like Brian Lieberman would say, I want to see their dad when their dad was a kid,
Right.
And so I'm in both realms with you. Like, I do see people with mental health stuff because that is a passion of mine. But my own family has our stuff after we've had the damage in our family we've had. My husband had the abusive childhood growing up that he did. We just try to keep being more well put together adults and heal as we go. I mean, I really feel we all just do the best we can with what we got. And as soon as we can accept that in our life and look at other people the same way, we can just have grace for ourselves and for other people.
And you talk about your husband, and you both, it's these two worlds come back together. It's really a soulmate thing, and you're two hurt souls, and now you're helping each other heal, which is a daily progression, correct?
Yeah.
What was I going to get at there? Because I've met your husband. Like, I really locked eyes with him this DE, and you could tell he's a special dude. He's a really cool cat,
Yeah.
and to have the two of you to be able to go in and unravel this, because people could sit here and this whole conversation could be different, and we could be in tears. We could be, how bad and how sad. And it's almost like a victim mode, but you've empowered yourself, and obviously your husband's empowered himself. What advice would you give people because they have a choice to make, either become the victim and they're sad and they're drugged up trying to just bury their emotions, or how do they make that shift to say, you know what, I'm going to grow and heal? And especially as a woman, to go kick ass like you're doing, what would be your advice to people for that?
It may be hard to figure it out, but know you're worth it. You're so worth it. And really, if you can't find that worth in that moment, know you have everything inside. It's all there. And anything you feel you're lacking, it's because you're disconnected from source. Always. Yeah. You're disconnected from the source of God. So go back and connect to source through chiropractic. No other specific way in the world that you can get as connected to source is when you clear out what the Indians called the mouth of God. The foramen magnum was called the mouth of God. So with that being the case, how can you not clear out that interference? So, of course that, but know you're worth it. Know you can win. Oops, sorry, just knocked over my water bottle. Know that you can win, and just that nothing's permanent. Nothing is permanent. You can have the worst 10 minutes of your life, and then you can shake it off. Like, my daughter just went through some stuff yesterday, man. We were getting at it. She was going through bouts of depression, and I'm like, girl, you need to get get out of your room, stop being in the dark so much, stop living off of, pasta and dairy-based cheese products. Like I eat good, I buy good food and we eat good food. But when she makes herself lunch, she might make herself like organic ravioli,
How
and
old
I'm
is
like,
she?
she's 15,
Yeah, it's a tough age.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like you're trying to get them to love and nurture themselves, but they're going through all of their hormones, everything they're going
Yeah.
through. And we were just getting at it, and like she's bawling, and I know I had a moment, like I wasn't my strongest self for her, like I should have been. And so I left the room, let her have a moment, come back in there, and I talked to her. She calms down, we're fine. 10 minutes later, it's like nothing happened, we're good.
Yeah.
She even came to my room last night and she was like, it's just amazing to me. She's like, I have these bipolar moments where I feel like the world is ending for 10 minutes and I'm pulling my hair out. And then a little bit later, we're laughing. I feel fine. It's all good. And I'm like, baby, that's life.
That's life. Yeah. Well, think about the word she's using, because these kids these days, they use words like bipolar, anxiety, depressed, like it's the new ice cream flavor. Like, I mean, we didn't know that as little kids. These kids, it rolls off their lips. And I tell my kids all the time, life sucks. Things are going to happen. You're going to go through down times, but you're going to wake up. It's going to be better. 10 minutes later, it's going to change. You just got to control your state. So it's funny. I'm laughing as you say this because I've seen this with my daughter's friends, and they come over the house and they're like, Dr. Steve, I think I have anxiety. And I'm like, why? And it's like, well, my parents got divorced and I said, wait a minute, are you sad? And they said, yes. I said, well, anxiety is the upset and fear of what's it going to be like with divorced parents and what's happening. Of course you're upset, baby. Daddy's going to move out. But that's not a diagnosis, because now you get diagnosed and we're going to have to treat it, or they're going to treat it with a drug, which now will destroy your brain. But be sad. Experiences. Sad is a vibration. Go through it.
And that's what I try and teach her. I'm like, move through these emotions instead of feeling like, you need to put them in any box. As we know, the word diagnosis, to a not gnosis, knowledge. Two people don't know.
People don't know. Yeah.
Like, why are we putting, so she did actually, it was funny. She did come from her counselor yesterday, and she was kind of telling her, like, I think this is more of what you would have. But the thing I do like about her counselor is she's like, look, I don't want to put this as a diagnosis and a label. That just lets me know how I can better help you. But she does it through all natural organic supplementation. She's on her about diet. She doesn't do any medication, so it's time to find this right person, and go figure, she's next door to my office.
Yeah, innate provides, right? And it's funny because, as life, it's when you go through things in life, I'm sure you find there's times where there's triggers where you think about your daughter who passed and these things. What is your pattern to help yourself? We'll call it to give you the 10 minutes later that you feel better to know that it's going to be okay. Do you have any techniques or advice that you give to people?
Honestly, a lot of times I connect with my brothers and sisters from DE. I'll reach out and text someone, or I'll have somebody text me in those moments and just say, hey, thank you. Or, I'll just know, I'll just connect to God and just sit still and just, one of my favorite things that really impacted me was thinking about abundance in the world. And when you relate it back to nature, when it's wintertime, a tree is not freaking out that the leaves are all going to get shed, and it's not stressed about how many leaves it's going to create for spring. It's just beautiful flow of life. And when I constantly get in those moments of stress, worry, and fear, I connect back to nature. And I actually use this as part of my affirmation during the 49 breaths today, as a matter of fact. And I connect back to nature, and I just realize nature doesn't have that stress. Even when an animal is giving birth, they are not the way us women are as human beings giving birth. They might not make a peep. Why is it? It's all up here in our brain. What's going on up here. So I just connect back to the beauty and the gentleness that nature provides, that perfect expression of innate, and I let go. And I don't really do anything else.
I had that moment, and I shared this at DE, when your daughter Lily was kind of attaching to me at DE, and she kept coming around, and I didn't know her name. And I'm sitting in the back, and I'm just sitting there. I'm in like that moment of just thinking and chilling. And she just kept coming over. And my daughter was laughing. She's like, wow, this little girl really likes you. And I'm joking with her, and I'm busting her chops. And one of the smartest, how old is she now?
She's going on 7 in March. She's 6 now.
Easily one of the smartest 6-year-olds I have ever met in my life. This kid's got a vocabulary. She could read. My daughter was holding things up, and she was reading it like she was 15 years old.
Oh yeah.
I said, and my daughter, Sierra, sitting next to me, I said, sweetie, what's your name? And she said, Lily. And I could feel my heart just sink. Like even just now saying the word Lily, because, you know, for those that don't know, I lost a baby and her name was Lily. And it's like, it brings you back to that moment of, not necessarily pain, but just loss.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have to learn how to handle loss, because with that name, and I was able to smile at your daughter because I knew this was my Lily talking to me, letting me know, Dad, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. My daughter Sierra, we smiled at each other. It was kind of like a little beautiful moment. But for the next hour, I went through a process of what happened on that day, things that went on, had to breathe through it and realize, hey, baby, I'll see you someday. I love you. Like, and I went through that dialogue. And I think it's very important for people going through pain and loss to just go through the dialogue. Don't push it away. Talk to it. Embrace it. Embrace it. You know, and that's what you've done. I mean, you are a powerful woman. I mean, I'll tell everybody listening right now, you were one of my staff's favorite speakers throughout the entire DE weekend.
Oh, yay. That's exciting.
They came back and they were like, that girl is absolutely awesome. You need to get her on the podcast. And I'm like, absolutely. Let's do it. So let's and one of the things too, and I have a little guilt with this because I feel like I've disconnected with you a little bit, because you were in the process of putting together a book and you wanted me to help you with some stuff. And I've kind of dogged you because I got so busy with my life. What's happening with your book?
So that was honestly a big blessing that you did that. Because I always find everything works in perfection. And so I went back and I read it and I was like, honestly, I feel like it was just a purging and a vomiting of my emotions of what I needed to get out. And yes, it told the story, but it wasn't going to connect with the people and make the everlasting impact that I want it to make. I'm just not, I don't want people to just hear what I went through. Who cares really like about that? I want it to be something that will make a difference for them and their life. And so I'm rewriting it. And it is called, it's going to be something along the lines of Dr. Parents or Dr. Mom and Dr. Dad, because I'm wanting to use it for the perspective of making sure that parents understand that they need to be the doctor in their own life, but for their children. Trusting within what they see every day, connecting with a chiropractor, holistic practitioner, someone that understands actually how the body works, not based on, okay, let's put you in a box based on symptoms, medicate you as such, and then see what happens. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try another one. It's not a lack of medication. No. So really wanting to use it to empower parents to step into the role, much like I had to. I was already a doctor when Sophia was diagnosed with cancer, but where I went from that point, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine if I didn't know what I know, where I would have been losing my mind and trying to figure out what's healthy eating, what's the best for brain cancer versus another type of cancer. Okay, now we need to look at genetics and cell types and see how those things respond. I mean, it's just ever unwinding. So I want to try to give parents these tidbits of things to learn and how to do to empower them to be their own child's pediatrician first and foremost, and then talk to the doctors about what they feel is best with their kids' care. Not just a conversation, well, we're going to put them on this antibiotic. How about the conversation instead is, what would you feel like if we were to put them on this antibiotic? And then they could come back and say, well, actually, I don't really think that's a good idea because I'm worried about the gut flora after that. And we're going to have to rebuild that. And then we could deal with all these other things. What could we do instead of that? Let's look at more holistic things. And I know holistic isn't really the scope of practice of medicine, but we need to create that space. We need to find that way, because especially after everything that's happened through this pandemic, we're finding where the solutions truly are. And so I want to really empower parents more from that perspective of even having a tragedy like cancer versus just being your everyday mom and dad with kids that are thriving.
You know, it's really being an active parent. You know, one of the things that we get to points where we talk to parents is because parents are so busy. Usually both of them are working. You know, they're running the kids off in the morning to school or daycare, and then they're working all day. And then they get home and they're like, hey, how you doing? Let's cook. Let's shower the kids up, put them down to bed. And then things start going wrong with the kids. And now they run to a doctor and say, fix my kid.
Exactly.
And I tell them, you got to be present with your kid. What got your kid to this point? What was missing? And a lot of it is you. You know, you're a parent providing for another human being instead of being a parent that's loving with another human being. And I think that's the big mindset that we're going through.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And then being in a rushed state, you know, when we got to get kids to dance classes and this, that, and the other thing, we may cut corners on eating, you know? And so
yeah.
that's also when we're losing that family time, sitting down, eating dinner together, having a good meal that mom and dad prepared, or mom or whoever. You know, you're right. It's all about that family connection. It's all about the presence and being there for your kids and being their advocate. You know, my oldest is homeschooled and my littlest goes to a forest school, which is like basically, you know, they go to in the woods for 2 to 3 hours out of the day and get to play. And she's learning more like even food. They make vegan food and stuff there. So it's
awesome.
it's part of a Seventh-day Adventist program. So I'm just so lucky that I have that available for them. But I wouldn't be sending her to a public school where kids could be feeding her whatever at lunch hour, because I can't know what she's eating.
So if you had a billboard that stood for you, your life, your philosophy of life, that your kids, grandkids, kids are going to look at someday, that was just, imagine a white billboard with black lettering, that is your withholding sentence of life, what would that say?
You are so brilliant and beyond anything you can imagine yourself to be. So tap into that little bit of brilliance that you can find and expand it and be everything you never dreamt you could be.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, listen, girl, that was awesome. I have this innate thought flash of doing a gathering with you and Denise Dobbs. So you connected
Awesome.
with Denise? Are you connected with her at all?
I've talked to her. I've talked to her a few times in the past, more so when I first moved back from Spain.
Yeah.
And when going through everything. But yeah, I'm down. She's an awesome person.
I have no idea where it'll go, whatever, but I feel like the two of you get jamming. I'll just kind of sit there and be the ping pong guy. But you two are like these two conversations. I had just had one with her yesterday. Just it helped me. I could feel my chest just soften up and feel better. So I love and appreciate you, girl. And thank you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome.